Welcome to Podcapers, the official podcast of a place to hang your cape. And this week, there are a lot of, cosmic-themed superheroes with Captain in the name. A lot of people in the military in space for some reason. Who cares? We're talking about Captain Cosmic! Cue the music! Hello there, Capers, and as I said, welcome to Podcapers, the official podcast of a place to hang your cape. My name is Scott James Merridew, and this is the show where we talk about various geek and nerd-related topics, and are joined each week by a very special different guest. My guest today is well-versed in the silver age of comics. Oh boy. Give it up, Capers, for Andy Clift!
Hello there.
How you doing, Andy?
I'm okay, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing very well indeed. Where are you calling from?
I'm in Kent at the moment, which is where I live. Yeah.
Oh, it's weird. My dad's from Kent.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Whereabouts in Kent are you calling from, if you don't mind me asking?
Ashford.
I don't know where that. My dad's from Gravesend.
Oh, no, yeah, that's a little way away.
Yeah. Famous Gravesend for the butt resting place of Pocahontas. That's right, America. We kept her. Oh God. That's a whole issue. We're going to move swiftly on from that. So, Captain Cosmic.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I've only read one issue of Captain Cosmic. I really like it. I can't wait to talk about it. But before we do, we have to talk about you. Who are you? What do you do? What's your reason for being? What is your place in the grand cosmic scale?
Who am I? Well, I'm an illustrator and an animator. My background is in animation. I studied that for years and actually sort of partly teach it at a university.
Which one? Is it one of the good ones?
I hope so. No, I think so. University for the Creative Arts in Canterbury.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I think I applied there once, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, didn't get in, but still. So it must be good then. Oh God.
Yeah, is it? I think so. I think we've got a good facility, good courses, and a really incredible bunch of students. So yeah.
If your university is centered around the creative arts, I think, in terms of teaching creative arts, it must be pretty damn good.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. It's been around for a good number of years. It used to be called CIAD, Kent Institute of Art and Design, but it rebranded a few years ago. And it's great. It's a great place to be.
Oh, great. It's a lovely part of the country.
Yeah.
And I'm sure none of it will be directly hit by the looming spectre of Brexit. I've got to stop bringing that up.
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about
that. No, we don't. Everyone's fucking talking about it. We don't need to. What we do need to talk about is your previous work, because you've actually worked and collaborated with people on this show before. You've worked on Bubbles 07 and Afterlife Incorporated before, haven't you?
Sorry, no, yeah, I did a cover for Bubbles 07 a couple of years back, and I've known Matt and Gronier for many years, worked with them a couple of times. A really, really great book, really great creators, and they get a host of amazing creators doing the art on those books. And I did a pin-up for Afterlife for John for a couple of years ago for the big collection, which was awesome.
Oh yeah, well, I've been looking at your work now. You've got your portfolio up on your website, and oh my God, you're prolific, and it's all awesome.
Thank you.
I mean, there's a lot of pin-ups, a lot of stuff. I actually really like the Force Awakens sort of pin-up thing that you've got going on with Rey and Kylo Ren in the background. That looks really awesome. It's probably the best thing about the Force Awakens now that I'm thinking about it.
Thank you. I really wanted to do that. When the film came out, I really loved it, and I just kind of really wanted to create something and sort of redid the cover from the original Marvel books from the 70s with the new characters. I just really enjoyed it.
Yeah, people forget. A lot of people forget that Marvel did the original and did for a long, long time actually.
Yeah.
The Marvel, the Star Wars comics and graphic novels, and they've done it up until quite recently. They're not still doing it, or are they? Because now with the Disney merger.
Oh yeah, no, Marvel have been doing the Star Wars books for a few years now. Yeah, they've been great, absolutely fantastic.
I got confused with Del Rey, who did the books for a long while.
Oh right, yeah.
Or still do it, and then before that was banned. Here's the thing, with the Star Wars expanded universe and now the canon universe, whatever you want to call it, I always feel this great urge to just dive right in and absorb as much of it as I can, but there's too much. There's too much.
Yeah,
I
that
think
there is.
they're so prolific and there's so many things out there that I think it's impossible for any one Star Wars fan to absorb every single story. You need a library the size of the National Portrait Gallery just to hold all the books.
Oh yeah, definitely. But the Star Wars comic from Marvel, I think, is a great place to start. And there's loads of like trades of them as well, and like it's you can get hold of them quite easily, I think, and they're not that difficult to follow. I mean, I really like them.
Do you know, I've started reading recently the Tales of the Jedi comics. It's set in the Old Republic. And
Yeah.
I don't mean like the Old Republic, I mean like the old Republic. We're talking like
Yeah,
Exar Kun and
yeah. I think I might have read those actually. Yeah, I think I know which ones you were talking about. Yeah.
and before that I read what was it, the Republic, just Republic comic books, which
Yeah.
is in the not the New Republic, but not the Old Republic, the Old Republic. There's so many different republics. There's like
Yeah,
three different kinds of republics.
yeah,
Oh
they keep
god.
coming back to Republic, don't they? They love that word. They keep going back for that one.
No other systems of government you want in your universe. It's either an empire or a republic, and there's nothing else.
No, it's like they just really want to emphasize that they are not the Empire, and it is, or any sort of thing like they are Republic, and that's the end of it. Yeah.
We get it, George Lucas. You got a problem with the British Empire. We get it. Oh god, but that was really good, and it was great because it started off with my favorite background Jedi of all time, Ki-Adi-Mundi. I love that guy. Because I don't know why. He looks so grandfatherly and so wise, and it's kind of cool. Do you have any like favorite background Star Wars characters? I'm not talking like Obi-Wan Kenobi or Anakin or Luke or anyone like that.
No,
Any
no,
other
no.
background.
Oh, that's a tough one. I kind of like Bosk.
Oh yeah.
He's quite fun. But I mean, to be honest, he's not really a background character, but obviously he's been fleshed out a lot more in the comics, and that's obviously, I know it's a bit of a cop out, but Boba Fett.
Oh.
Because like.
Well, what did he really do in the... Wait, he did stuff, but what did he... Here's the thing. Do you know... Everyone's going on about Boba Fett. Oh, Boba Fett, Boba Fett, Boba Fett. And I love Boba Fett. Boba Fett is awesome. But here's the thing. The reason why everyone says he's their favourite character is because he's sold the most toys. That's why he's got all the comics and all the books, and for a time there was planned a video game about him and stuff like that. And he makes cameos in all the cartoons. It's because he sold the most toys. That's it. It's not because of these incredibly deep and complicated character that was presented in the movies.
Yeah, but to be fair, it's a really good toy.
Yeah. To be fair, you're absolutely... I'm not saying the toy wasn't great. I'm just saying having a good toy does not a good character make. And they did...
I don't know.
No, we're not getting this discussion. No.
Yeah, I'm an avid toy collector, so you're not talking to the right person with this one, man. I'm always gonna if they've got a good toy, I'm in.
Right. See, that's the thing. I've never really got into collecting toys. I played with toys when I was a kid, but I never really got into it. The most recent toy I got was at a comic convention last year. I picked up, oddly enough, a Millennium Falcon toy. It doesn't do anything. It's just a model. It's a cheap model that you fit together, and that's it. But you know what? I don't care because it's the fucking Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, I got one of those. Yeah, they're great.
Yeah, and it's like I don't care because I've always wanted to own a Millennium Falcon. I remember when I was a kid, every time I used to go in the toy shop, I always used to see on the top shelf a Lego Millennium Falcon priced at £19.99 sterling.
Wow.
And it's like I want, but even as a kid, I knew I could never have. It was always that forbidden fruit because I knew I thought maybe one day I could put it on my Christmas list, and then my parents would see it, and I was like, yeah, no, Santa does not have the budget for that, Scott. Yes, again. So I always knew that I could never have it, and it's not Lego the model I've got, but still, it's a little childhood thing. Oh, and it's giving me just a small glimpse of satisfaction.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're a Star Wars fan, any Falcon will do. To be fair,
any dream will do. Any Falcon will do.
I'm a firm believer in that. I think, yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. And it's clear from your portfolio that you're very into your space stuff. You've done other stuff, but you're very into your
Yeah,
space.
yeah, absolutely love it. Love all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Yep, huge space fan. Yep.
So I mean, you just got a pin-up of a just titled "Silver Age Space Woman." She's just like got a jetpack. She's riding through space. There's clearly a rip-off of the N1 Naboo starfighter in the background from Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. I see your game, Andy. I know where you got that from.
Yeah,
I mean,
but those ships, man. Oh, I tell you what, right? I know Phantom Menace gets a raw deal from people sometimes, but the designs of the ships in the old Republic back in in that film, they were beautiful. Some
oh,
of them, like especially, oh yeah, those Naboo ships, brilliant.
all the designs for all the vehicles and the characters and stuff in the prequel trilogy were amazing. The CGI sometimes was completely another dog shit, but the actual designs themselves was great. And this is the annoying thing about we're going to bring it back at Star Wars. I'm sorry, we're doing this. This is the annoying thing about George Lucas when he
Okay.
conceptually. It does, I know he's worked with other stuff, and they were concept designers to work with that, but he would have had to sign off on all of those designs, and he picked clearly the right ones.
Yeah.
Conceptually, in terms of ideas, the man is a fucking genius. It's only when he sits down to write a romance scene that he's complete and utter shit. And it annoys me so much about these new movies, the fact that he's been completely cut out of the creative conversation. It's another extreme. Give him too much creative control, and the movies will turn out bad. If you don't include him at all, the movies will turn out bad, because I'll be honest, when it comes to the designs of the new ships and characters and stuff in the sequel, I mean, some of them are okay, I guess, but most of them look pretty just like, at most they look off-brand Star Wars. Just like the Resistance fighters are just X-wings, but slightly different. Like the engines and slightly different designs, and they're coloured slightly differently, and that's it. The TIE fighters are still fucking TIE fighters, and the only real difference is like I think what's his face emo Darth Vader's Kylo Ren's ship looks slightly different, and that's it. That's it. It's fucking boring.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, you're allowed to feel that way.
Thank you.
I
I
feel
appreciate your permission.
I feel differently. But that's cool. We all like different things, and I'm down with that.
I just said one design I did like, that initially I didn't, but the more I thought about it, the more I really liked it, was the crossguard lightsaber of Kylo Ren's. That's actually pretty
Yeah,
damn cool.
yeah, that was rad. I mean, I remember when the first teaser trailer came out, and you saw that, and people were kind of going off in different directions, trying to overanalyze, like we like was always going to happen. And I remember just sitting there thinking, "That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm in." People were like, "Oh, but realism. He could cut his hand off." And I was like, "What?
Well,
You can't talk
he
realism
had,
here."
I mean, first of all, yeah, any Jedi holding a lightsaber could cut their bits off. And if you gave me
And
a
have.
lightsaber, I definitely would cut my bits off. I'd be decapitating myself before you could say, now be careful. But here's the thing. Jedi have the fucking Force. They're trained in these things. And that's why they're able to deflect like blaster bolts, because the lightsaber becomes an extension of themselves, and they use the Force to make sure they don't cut bits of themselves off. And the crossguard is great for two reasons. One, from a design point of view, it's really good for the fighting, and he uses it in a very creative ways when he's fighting. And two,
Yeah.
you can tell the blade has been like the light matrix or whatever you want to call it. It's slightly wibbly. It's a bit unstable, and I think that's a metaphor for Kylo Ren's personality, possibly.
And see, man, that's great. You can look into that, and you can take stuff out of that, and that's great. And I firmly believe that the person that designed it just did it and thought that's badass.
Yeah,
Case, then I'm cool with it. I just really like it.
yeah, I like it too. I mean, here's the thing. I'm a skeptic. That's why I wear these red and blue 3D glasses. It's about the negative and the positive. Everything is a metaphor. And so I can look at the sequels and I say, okay, I didn't like this, I didn't like this, I didn't like this, but I like that, I like that. And the same with the prequels. I can say with any movie. No movie, well, most movies aren't completely utterly shit. There's usually one or two things that are good. And the same with, no, I always believe that no film is perfect. The best
Right? Yeah.
films still have something that might be slightly wrong with them, because here's the thing. Art is a reflection of humanity. I've said that time and time and again.
Yeah.
And people, humanity, is imperfect, so our art will also be imperfect. And
Yeah, I agree.
that's what makes it interesting. Could you even
Yeah.
visualize a perfect bit of art in any sort of expression, or any sort of medium?
No, you're absolutely right. I agree with you totally. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And speaking of 3D glasses, you nicked
Hmm.
off my look because there's a guy in your comic samurai slasher who's wearing 3D glasses. They're mine, Andy. They're mine. No one else can
Well,
have them.
I mean, you will have to blame Mike Garley for that one because he was the one that that decided that he wanted to do 3D for that book, and I was really quite honoured and privileged to draw it, the story that was going to be 3D, and that was a lot of fun, which made me want to do 3D for issue 2 of Captain Cosmic. We did a 3D print for it, so I'm all about 3D. I love it. I love working in it.
I love it too when it's not done in movies.
Yeah,
Well, even, oh god, we're gonna rant about 3D movies now. This is happening, folks. It works when the nature of the movie fits the nature of 3D. And when I say fits, I mean fits coincidentally, not made for. Because we all know movies that are specifically made with 3D in mind are shit.
I've actually got a bit of a tiny rant on this myself. Actually,
Go for it.
no, I'm gonna. No, 3D. I haven't seen a 3D film in the cinema for years. As you know, I went to see that Wrinkle in Time in 3D because I think that was the only showing, but it wasn't necessarily through choice. It was just that was the only showing they had.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
But I just tend to not watch them anymore because I feel it just sort of detracts from it. I'll always remember going to see Avatar in the cinema and being blown away by the effects and the 3D and everything like that. But then it turned out like it was like a 3 hour epic, and you had all of these scenes that were just taking place like regular scenes of people talking or walking in a corridor in 3D, and it just sort of after a while you just think, why? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, if you take Tron Legacy, for example, when that came out, I went to see that, and
No
all
one
of
would
the
take Tron Legacy. No one wants to take Tron Legacy. They want to leave Tron Legacy
oh,
alone.
nah, I love that movie. That film was great. And one of the reasons it's great was in the cinema, everything on the grid was in 3D, but everything in the real world was in 2D, so your eyes never really got used to it, which kind of made it quite good. But then you just get these 3.5 hour epics in 3D, and your eyes just get used to it, and it just doesn't. It gets boring for me personally. Obviously, other people might really, really dig it, but for me, I just nah.
Well, it's a psychological thing. You're tricking your brain into thinking that something is coming out of the screen, but the brain can adapt to anything. So eventually, you watch something for long enough, and the brain will sort of, I don't know, switch back into normal mode. It's like whenever I first put on these 3D glasses. Just kidding. I always keep them on, capers. At first, I see these things as sort of an amalgamation of red and blue, but eventually, it sort of just dissolves into like this weird sort of orangey sort of thing. I don't know. It's just something I've noticed in the years and years and years I've been wearing these things. I'm probably screwing my brain up, but let's be honest, capers. I don't have a brain to screw up anymore. Anyway.
Yeah, but no, like I say, like but when it comes to 3D on a 2D space, like with comics and stuff, I think it can like be amazing. I've got Michael Red's Madman in 3D, and that is just breathtaking, like absolutely incredible.
I'm glad you brought him up because I think your art style it reminded me immediately of Mike Allred's, specifically his work on Silver Surfer. It was it reminded me very pleasantly of that. But
thanks, man.
But the great thing about it is it's very clear that you weren't trying to mimic his style, because I do hate it when people do that. It's like, great, you have a favorite artist, but like let them be you, they be them, and let you be you. But it's clear that yours is just similar, not the same, which is what I always prefer. I kind of love that somewhat cartoony, but also very plain sort of pop art Silver Age style. I love it because I love detail. I love things that are fantastically drawn, but sometimes simplicity is all you need, and that's the great thing about a lot of the Silver stuff and a lot of Mike Allred stuff. It's wonderfully detailed, but in a simplistic way. And I think your style is very done that, and it's great because it means we can fully absorb on the page in front of us. It means that we can spot all the little details, little things here and there, but we're not overwhelmed by them. Like right now, you got there's a star bear pin-up on your portfolio about a bear in space shooting a guy in the face and stabbing what looks to be Spock in the chest. Oh God, no! Now we've got to go search for him all over again. And it's great because there's so much going on, and yet it's, as you say, it's not overwhelming. We can clearly see all the agony on Spock's face, and we can clearly see all the what I like about it's this weird little thing that happens in a lot of Mike Elwood stuff and the old Jack Kirby stuff as well. Is those little energy ball things, energy ball streams, you know?
Kirby Crackle.
Kirby Crackle, that's what it's called. Yeah. Yes, I fucking love Kirby Crackle.
Me too, man. It's I will say this though, it's always one of those things that when I'm drawing stuff at like conventions for people, that I instantly want to start doing it because I love doing it, but you instantly think, oh God, what have I done? Because it's so much of it to do to make it look right, and it's definitely one of those things that I love to do, but you've really got to, mean it do it.
It's got to come from a place of sincerity. You can't ever have a cynical Kirby Crackle. In fact, that's the thing when reading Captain Cosmic that I first realised about it in terms of a story perspective. That's a nice little segue into talking about Captain Cosmic now. Is that I thought when I was going to started reading it that it was going to be a sort of a send up of the Silver Age stuff in terms of a like a satire or a parody or something like that. It's not. It's very sincere. And that's what I love about it, because Captain Cosmic is completely and utterly devoid of cynicism.
And that was my intention all along.
Well, it comes through, and I love that, especially in this age, because I'm a skeptic myself, but when other people are cynical about sort of stuff, I kind of like it, depending on how they use it and what they use it for and against it. It can work very well, but it's so refreshing to have something that is just a love letter to the Silver Age thing, without making fun of the tropes or just including the tropes, and being a fun throwback, because sometimes we need that.
Well, I totally agree. I mean, it kind of started off as just an art project I wanted to do because of my love of the Silver Age and the artists that I'm influenced by and that I love, and all those like old school books. I just kind of wanted to sort of create something that felt like that and felt like it could have been like a long lost Silver Age comic that everyone had forgotten about and kind of uncovered it. And that's kind of that was my approach. Yeah. So
sadly, Andy, there is one thing in your comic that means that it is completely and utterly separate from any Silver Age comic that stands out quite glaringly. Do you want to know what that is?
Yeah, go for it.
There's no sexism is in it. I mean, if you really wanted to do a Silver Age comic, you had to have Captain Cosmic condescend to his sidekick, Kid Cosmic.
Well, I mean, she's his daughter, so I didn't really feel like I could be any kind of like. Well, and also you don't want to put anything like that in there anyway. Really. No. So yeah, I
airbrush over that part of history.
Well, yeah.
No, I get it. No,
we can't change it, but we don't have to. We don't have to carry it on.
Those comics will last forever. We'll never forget them. We'll never forget that time when Mr. Fantastic spanked his wife.
Oh God, yeah, there was some stuff in those Fantastic Four books between those two. Yeah. But yeah, there was definitely going to be none of that in Captain Cosmic.
I really hope when we inevitably get an MCU version of Fantastic Four starring John Krasinski and Emily Blunt that doesn't happen, because that's going to be weird.
That would be an incredible casting, though. I would be all over that.
Yeah. So John Krasinski, Emily Blunt, and or Yvonne Strahovski from Mass Effect and Dexter and stuff like that.
And Chuck.
And Chuck. Oh yeah, of course, Chuck. Who else? Let's get Jeffrey D. Morgan as Ben Grimm.
Oh yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
And just any generic blonde twat to play the Human Torch. I can't think of anyone that I could really, really want to play the Human Torch. A lot of people who could play him and who could play don't even have to be blonde, to be honest.
No, of course not. But
But
he's definitely one of those characters. Out of the four, I reckon he would probably be the easiest to cast
there's
because
someone
yeah.
handsome, someone cocky, and someone who, hopefully, dear God, is mildly charismatic. Otherwise, he's going to get really annoying really fast.
Yeah, but I mean, but he's going to do that anyway. What you're talking about is putting off the annoyance,
Yeah.
as you know, make that as slow as possible because he's always going to be annoying, but he's still great. Like he's a great character.
He is a great character. I want it so bad. I want it so bad. And we will talk, Capers, about the Fox Disney merger at a later date. Stay tuned for that. We're going to move on for now. So we're going to talk about the Silver Age a lot. Talking about Captain Cosmic. We have talked about it a lot already. And just so, in case the Capers don't know, I'm sure they will do, but just in case, what's your... Give us a brief overview of the Silver Age of comics.
Well, okay. Silver Age of comics kind of kicked off in the late 50s and was sort of kind of brought in. I mean, I could be just me here, but sorry, I can't forget. With the Silver Age Flash with Barry Allen. That's kind of right. Oh no!
I hate DC. I hate DC. I'm not going to apologize for it. I'm sorry. I just did.
So we got the Silver Age with Barry Allen, and it basically was very much inspired by the kind of space race that was going along in America at the time. So we got a lot of reinterpretations of Golden Age characters with a more scientific theme behind it. So Silver Age Green Lantern was a space cop. The Flash was a forensic scientist, that sort of stuff. But then, of course, on the other side, we got Stan Lee coming in with with basically the birth of the Marvel Universe again. The modern Marvel Universe, shall we say? Yeah. With again more science-based characters, and that's kind of where
again, Fantastic Four is something that really cemented that. And the first issue is them fighting, underground mole people, and as you say, Golden Age character, the Human Torch was part of the Invaders.
He was the Invaders.
He was like the first actual Marvel character in the Golden Age back when it was Timely Comics. And he stole his name, like copycat. I nearly called him Johnny Blaze. No, that's Johnny Storm. He's on fire. That's an easy mistake to make.
Yeah, I can see that.
And so when did the Silver Age end?
I think, generally speaking, it's kind of considered to be late 60s, like maybe 1970, I think, and that's when the Bronze Age came in.
Yeah, I would say either the late 70s, maybe early 80s, just because they've started to really... That was when they were starting to really grow up a lot, and it's tricky. It's like... I don't know, real life equivalent calendar ages. It's difficult when you live through them and they're so recent. It's difficult to pinpoint exactly where the drop off is. So don't take our word for these papers. But
I know exactly what you mean. I mean, like the 90s was only a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Where did the time go?
Yeah.
Oh dear, simpler time, better time.
Yeah.
I say that. That's. Yeah, a simpler time, a better time, when Rob Liefeld roamed the land. Oh God! And so some of the big names of the Silver Age, off the top of my head, was obviously Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, Steve Ditko.
Yeah.
And no, I'm not. I would say Marv Wolfman, but that's more Bronze Age, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely more Bronze Age. Over DC, who were some of the people at DC? Was it Gardner Fox? Am I getting that right?
Yeah. Gil Kane, Carmine Infantino. I mean, Kurt Swan was still going for it back then, so I would kind of count him because his Superman is iconic. But there's just loads. I mean, obviously there was a lot of mix and match because Gil Kane was huge in DC, but obviously went over and he's probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite, Spider-Man artist ever. So.
Dare you ever impugn the grandiose artist stylings of John Romita Jr.?
Oh, don't get me wrong, man. John Romita Jr., really?
Oh, yeah, I love John Romita Sr., but my personal favourite artist is John Romita Jr.
Oh, fair enough. Like I love John Romita Jr. I met him once. Lovely guy,
Oh wow.
absolutely incredible artist as well.
Yeah.
His run on Spider-Man with JMS
Oh
is
yeah.
probably one of my favorite runs of Spider-Man ever.
Same.
So yeah, but
It's
yeah,
it's absolutely brilliant. Yeah, and I could talk all day, but I don't know. It's weird. When I first saw his style, I didn't really like it, and it sort of grew on me to the point where it just I love I love the detail. I love how it's weird. It's like everything's sort of blocky, but also so expressive and flowing. It's like the weird
mm,
combination of
mm,
sketchy and solid that I actually really like, and it seems to be like an amalgamation of everything that I love about comic book art. That's why I love it so much. Because
yeah, I get that.
because I look at Mike Allred's art again, and I love it. I think it's great. But then I think about other artists that I might like that are a bit more sketchy and a bit more out there, and it just seems like the perfect middle ground, encompassing all kinds of art in a weird way, whilst also remaining distinct.
Oh yeah, his as I say, his run on Spider-Man was defining for me when I was younger, and I totally agree with what you're saying about the way he draws. It's very much like it's not quite realistic, but it's not quite abstract.
Yeah,
It's in that like kind of sketchy middle ground, and I kind of feel like he's kind of cornered that like middle ground and kind of claimed it for his own, and I love that.
absolutely. And it was I say the Silver Age was inspired by the space race, and that's why we started to
Mhm.
see. I mean, we'd had space-esque comics before. We'd had like invaders from the X dimension, blah, blah, blah. But we never really had like a lot of superheroes in space, and that's when we started to get like Green Lantern. As I say, he's probably the big one,
Mhm.
the big space guy. And then the thing that I keep coming back to in my mind, and this character is such a weird thing for me to keep coming back to because I got know very little about him. But Space Ghost,
Ah, I love Space Ghost.
I had a feeling you might, because I mean, so Space Ghost was an
Yeah.
actual. He was a cartoon
Uh,
character, wasn't he?
yeah, he was a Hanna-Barbera cartoon from back in the 60s. Ran for a single series and was designed by the incredible Alex Toth. And yeah, it was. I mean, it was very generic in a lot of ways. As was, I guess, a lot of the stories at the time would be. Bad guys versus good guys win in the end, yada yada yada. But yeah, but it was just it. Very kind of whimsical, very I love it. I own it. I own all of them, and I watch them regularly. And yeah, I love, can't recommend it enough.
And then,
Especially if you like that kind of Adam West Batman. Like
oh
it's
yeah,
very kind of in that tone, which is great.
Giggling Galaxies, Space Kid. Oh, I don't know.
Exactly.
Did he have? I don't know. It's exactly
Yeah,
the
yeah.
sort of thing, and yet odd. And it's weird because we keep talking about the Silver Age and space and stuff like that from a very nostalgic point of view, but for the longest time, it's already been nostalgic. Hence why Space Ghost got his own talk show.
Space Ghost Coast to Coast. Yeah, it was on the Adult Swim block, wasn't it? They kind of
Yeah.
re-edited all of the old footage, and weirdly enough, the original series ran for a single season, but Space Ghost Coast to Coast lasted for like 10 years. It was
Uh,
weird.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a fleeting parody lasts forever.
Yeah, 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 definitely.
It's the weirdest thing, and but that, again, talking about Mike Allred, we mentioned him too soon. His style, again, aped the Jack Kirby classic thing with Madman or Mad, whatever it's called, and even further than that, another very sincere, much like your own, aping of that style was the Silver Surfer cartoon.
Yeah, yeah. The Silver Surfer cartoon from the 90s. Oh god, I love it. It's great. That kind of very much influenced by the Jack Kirby and John Buscema run,
Hmm.
which is just yeah, golden.
I mean, it's brilliant. What I love about it, it was so philosophical and so grandiose in its scale and its spectacle, and it only ran for one season. And it's
Yeah,
again much like Space Ghost, and it was at the very end of the Marvel animated universe, as it were. We had like Fantastic
yep,
Four, Spider-Man,
yep.
X-Men. And it was probably also the most mature. X-Men was pretty goddamn mature, but then you had Jubilee, like
Yep.
Nat, and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And it hasn't aged very well. None of them have aged very well, except for Silver Surfer.
Yeah, I think. Well, I mean, you could argue it maybe hasn't now because Thanos was a huge part of that series. And obviously with the MCU now and people's interpretation of Thanos and stuff like that, it's quite different. And even like Gamora pops up in it
And
in a weird way.
Drax pops up in it.
Yeah,
He's very
yeah,
different.
yeah, yeah. But I will still go back and rewatch it and love it because they tried so hard to sort of keep that kind of art style from the classic Silver Age run in it. And it's beautiful.
It is absolutely beautiful because it combines that art style and that sort of animation with CGI animation as well.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, yeah.
And it still looks pretty good for its time. I love the ship designs and
Yep.
the alien designs and all sorts of things. And it's so cool. It's so full of pathos, and I love it. And and you can clearly, I mean, it's almost like a lot of the Jack Kirby stuff is interchangeable. Like a lot of the you could place one character from what background and switch it with another character from another background. It's a completely different thing, completely different cast of characters and setting and stuff. And it almost feels like the same universe. I mean, that's what I get with Captain Cosmic. I'm looking at the cover right now, and I'm seeing Captain Cosmic and Kiss Cosmic flying through space,
Yeah.
and it's the same. It's exactly the same. The characters are different, but it feels just right at home.
Thanks, man. Well, that's what I was going for. So, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So I think we've gone on long enough. I think it's time we actually fucking talk about the comic itself. So what happens
Okay.
in the first issue of Captain Cosmic?
In the first issue, there is it's called The Mystery of the Missing Planets, and basically, it's set in the far off, unnamed future. I don't say what year it is or whatever, but we're in the future, and planets have started to disappear, and the Commonwealth, which is like the Federation or Republic of kind of call upon Captain Cosmic and Kid Cosmic to try and solve this mystery because they're they're just like planets are missing. They're just disappearing. Like billions of people are missing.
Planets
We
have
need
gone
help.
missing, and we can't get Doctor Who on the phone. You got us. You're the only one.
Well, yeah, kind of. So yeah, they go on the case and they try and find them, and they do. They find out that there is this, spoilers, I suppose. There is a guy called Kenner the Collector who is miniaturizing these planets and keeping them as a collector. He's sort of, as I am a toy collector, he is a collector of all things, and he wants planets and people.
It's good to have a hobby.
Exactly. And yes.
What I love about it is there's one line he says, it really wouldn't be a collection without accessories. Referring to Captain Cosmic and how he's going to shrink him and put him in his collection. And speaking of Captain Cosmic, I really love the design of Captain Cosmic. The art style is very Silver Age and it's superbly detailed. He's got the whole square jaw and all the definitions stuff. It looks really great. But I also like the design of the costume. It's great because it's unique. But it's also clearly inspired by lots of different things. It's got like the little antenna stuff sticking out and stuff. That's really cool. So it's very clear that the mask, the face mask, it's very. You mentioned Adam West earlier. It's very Adam West Batman.
Yeah.
And it just looks so cool.
Well, I mean that kind of. Like the Adam West series was very much kind of inspired by the comics of the time, which was very much like Dick Sprang, who was drawing the book at the time, and I kind of was looking at those Silver Age Batman books and looking at that design, and there's a lot of influence of that in there.
Absolutely, it looks great, and yet it's so. Again, the characters are so expressive. It's one of those things where, because there's not so much going around, you can really get in full front of the face of the characters and see every bit of expression on them. And even with the masks on, they're so expressive, and it really helps. It really helps sell the action because it's Silver Age. There's a lot of dialogue, lots of people talking, a lot of people describing what they're doing and what's going on. Yeah. And so and with that sort of stuff, it can feel very bland and generic, and it's a very sort of early Superman, if you will. Like, with my incredible super weaving powers, I shall now weave a quilt using my weaving powers. Because yes, Capers, he had weaving powers. I'm not making that up. That's real.
I'll have to write that one.
Sorry, I missed that.
It was a bad joke. It was good. You missed it.
Oh no! Oh. And yeah, it's so cool. But also, so there's lots of great dialogue, lots of great expression. The thing that really caps it off is the action. There's a lot of great action. So Captain Cosmic, his Cosmic have to fight against a bunch of robots. And one scene I fucking love to bits. It's 3 panels next to each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're fighting robots. Captain Cosmic says, "But don't lose your heads," and he punches the head off a robot. It flies off through the next panel, past the Collector's head, and into the next panel with the word "punch." It spread out across 3 panels. It's fucking awesome.
Cheers, man. Thanks. I had a lot of fun doing that page and playing around with the colour as well.
Absolutely, the colour, there's little pop art dot things in the background, and yeah, it looks great. And I'm struggling to think of a single comic I've read that's done something like that, in this specific way. There probably has been something, but if there has been, I haven't read it.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm sure there has been. And I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but that's just because it's a Sunday. But generally, yeah, no, I think that just sort of came from my animation background, really. I wanted to do stuff like that. I kind of, part of the whole thing with Captain Cosmic was to kind of try and create not just like a Silver Age comic, but like a 1960s superhero cartoon as well.
You got like the sound effects, like the whacks, the rips, the bam, the biffs.
Oh yeah, you got to have the classics in there.
Absolutely. And do you know what I love about it as well? It's got that sort of classic cartoon Silver Age sort of thing where the heroes are defeating the bad guys and they're doing it with massive fucking grins on their faces. And it just makes them kind of look like psychopaths.
Yeah, well, I mean, that certainly wasn't the intent of that, but no, I get what you mean. I could definitely see that.
When they're hit, it shows and they feel pain. They're not like smiling the whole time, but they just got the massive grin on faces, and yeah, that's part of the fun of it. And they're just robots, but like there's an image of Captain Cosmic tearing a robot in half with 2 hands at the waist. He's got the biggest smile on his face. It's like he's having the time of his fucking life. And meanwhile, the Collector is looking on with horror. And just like, oh shit, I was not prepared for this level of anarchy.
No, that's very true. I mean, the whole idea was that it was like positive, and they're just like being kind of not joking around, but when we're trying to keep the mood light. But I could definitely see how that could come off as maybe slightly crazy.
I mean, it's not something that's unique to you. It's something like Silver Age. It's something I noticed a lot in like the old He-Man cartoon as well. A lot of the time, he just had this massive grin on his face whilst he was grappling with a villain. Clearly, He-Man has a kinky side. I think we all knew this. Oh no, Skeletor! I can't break free of your muscular, strong, comforting grip. What? I'm just saying, Skeletor, you've really got me. I'm struggling so hard and I can't get free of your taut, muscular bonds. You're making me very uncomfortable, He-Man. I'm okay with that. Well, I'm not!
Yeah, you've nailed the cartoons there. Definitely.
What? That's the only thing I can really do for Skeletor. What? Anyway. Oh, God. And so, the comic, it ends on the traditional sort of, oh, here we go again. There's another adventure to go off on. But it's all very, it's very uplifting. So many comics these days would end on a sort of dark, ominous note, like, ooh, there's something creepy out there in space, and it's coming for our heroes. But it's just Captain Cosmic and Kid Cosmic jetting off to save the day, saying that the Cosmics are on their way. Great backdrop of like the planets and the sun and space and stuff. And next issue, the curse of the Phantom Spaceman. Clearly, Space Ghost is going to make a cameo.
Well, I kind of wanted. I mean, not only did I want the comics always to end on a positive anyway, but I kind of want each issue to be self-contained as well. Like, I didn't want to do... I mean, I may do it in the future, but at the moment, each issue is essentially a jumping on point for anybody. So that's kind of part of the reason why it ends the way that it does.
Yeah, and because that's how they very much were at the time. Because
Yeah.
so many comics these days have so long storylines going on, and they have
Mm.
arcs and stuff, and that's all very well and good. But back in the day, they were largely self-contained. Maybe they'd be two-parters or something like that. But it was very
Yeah.
episodic. It wasn't serialized, and
Yeah.
that's because I don't want to say that's because they didn't take them seriously at the time, but they were just meant to be like pick up and read, something for kids to spend their pocket money on. They weren't the industry
Exactly.
then that they are now. And
Exactly.
so,
You know, yeah.
and so it's interesting you've gone back to that sort of style, and it's everything. That's everything, that sort of style, from the whole Frontier Comics logo to the also feet on the cover. It's not just got Captain Cosmic and Kid Cosmic on the cover.
Yeah.
It also says it's Captain Cosmic also featuring Kid Cosmic.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
and the thing at the top, the cherry on the Nostalgia Sunday. I absolutely fucking love this. The little logo saying approved by the Cosmic Code.
Yeah.
The Comics Code Authority. Those
Yeah.
fascists.
Well, that's right. Well, it's not the comics code; it's the cosmic code. So completely different.
Completely different. I mean, a lot of people have been sort of parodying that sort of thing because it's so irrelevant nowadays. I mean, there's a bit of regulatory stuff when it comes to comics, same as any sort of medium.
Yeah.
But people love to make fun of them. One thing I loved about the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, one of many things I loved about that movie, was after all the logos and stuff, it had filling up the screen approved by the Comics Code Authority for seemingly no reason. It's just sort of there, and it's just kind of awesome.
It's because even though obviously it's completely irrelevant now, that symbol is it's a staple of comics history, and I mean that's why I put it on the cover of my book, because of that.
Yeah, it's iconic in its own right. It's like the Hays Code of the old American cinema that had very strict moral guidelines about what you can and could not do. Down, not even just what you could show, but the kinds of storylines you could do. One thing I really liked about that old code was for the Hays Code, you could have someone murder someone, anyone murder someone,
Right.
but you couldn't show them get away with it. No one could ever get away with murder. And I find that so fascinating.
Well,
and the kind of stories they had to change because
that's
of that.
that's why the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre was banned, wasn't it? Yeah, because of the ending. Spoiler. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler in case you missed that horror icon from the 70s. But at the end,
you never know.
Yeah, you do never know. That's fair enough. But it's interesting to see how it's weird because the whole point of the Hays Code, the Comics Code Authority, was to make sure that kids would expose to something that would be bad or damaging for them. But we as a society, as a comics reading, as a film watching society, have grown up to the point where we don't need it. So now kids can read that sort of stuff. I mean, the kids aren't going to go see like the Texas fucking Chainsaw Massacre nowadays.
No,
because we've got other regulatory bodies and other parents are much more aware of stuff like that. But it's interesting to see how, in their attempt to make sure kids didn't grow up too fast, we grew up and sort of abandoned it.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
I think a lot of the time, maybe it has something to do with them being too constricting with the rules. So like with the Comics Code, I think one of the reasons why the Comics Code started to fall away in terms of its relevance was when people like Stan Lee decided they were going to do a story about drugs and decided to get rid of the Comics Code for a couple of issues. And when they had that ability to do that, to tell these stories, which were important issues, and realizing that this authority was actually trying to stop that, well, maybe this authority is not doing the job that it thinks it should be. And I think it's kind of part of the reason why a lot of these things sort of fall away, because sometimes maybe they're a bit too constricting.
Yeah, it's when you're getting in the way of stories that need to be told and need to be told in an honest, mature, and frank way that's accessible to children, especially, and ways that they can understand, presented through characters that they love and are familiar with. it can be very effective. And there's another side to that, where it feels very after school special and it's done in a very poor way. I'm looking at you, cartoon all stars to the rescue. Remember that where they're trying to get like the Muppet Babies to teach kids
Yeah.
about drugs, and it
Yeah.
backfired horribly. It was awful. I'm sorry, Ronald Reagan, it's not going to work. Okay, maybe you focus more on the AIDS crisis. I don't know. Anyway, that's a separate rant. But yeah, it's great because kids learn so much about. This is something I've always said in the show. Kids learn a lot about the world through the mediums they watch. That's kind of why I hate Disney so much, because they taught so many bad lessons for so many years and still kind of do to this day, although they're getting better. And and you need some sort of oversight to make sure kids aren't being exposed to something that they definitely should not be watching. But I hate the fact that there existed a codes that were fine with showing kids that, hey, maybe consent is optional, Snow White, but that's what my takeaway from that movie. But they're not okay with showing kids that sometimes the world can be a bit of a unjust place, and sometimes bad people can get away with stuff, but only if good people do nothing. And it can be the very much thing. And this is why I think, more than anything, you can have regulatories, you can have the BBFC, you can have the MMPA, whatever it's called, or the Comics Code, or whatever.
Yep.
But it's down to the parents. It's always down to the parents to make sure that they know what media their kids are watching, and that they know that it's appropriate to their kids on an individual basis, like on a step-by-step, case-by-case basis, and that it's something that they know their kids are going to learn something from, and that if they do have questions about it, that they can engage their kids with.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not that difficult. This is the problem, is because I grew up in a household that wasn't very media savvy, and so my parents were fine just shoving any Disney flick on, and thankfully I grew up and started looking at those movies from a critical perspective, which is why I wouldn't, if I ever have kids, I would never show my kids Snow White, because that film is fucking twisted. But anyway, so Captain Cosmo, that's the first issue we talked about. How many issues are out?
So far, issue 2 is out right now. I did kick it out just before Christmas, or just about November time, I think.
Yeah, and so how many issues can we hope to expect to see on Captain Cosmic?
Oh, as many as I want to do, really. I'm currently writing issue 3, and I have a story for issue 4. But it's all about whether I can fit it in with other work, because it's my book. It's my, I write it, I draw it, I do everything for it. It all depends on how I can fit it around everything else, really. But yeah, as many as I want to, really. Like I say, I've got 4, and another 2 planned out at the moment.
Well, I think that's good, because so often we have people who like saying, "Oh, I'm going to do X amount and X amount, and I'm going to see how far I can go." But it is kind of like you kind of. The impression I'm getting is that you're kind of doing it for yourself, but it's accessible to other people.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good way of doing it. It depends on your motivations, but because so often people, they just do comics that are just for themselves, and no one else can really get into them because it's very unique to your styles and your sensibilities. But this is a very accessible comic. It's accessible, because if you're very familiar or nostalgic for the Silver Age, but also this is a comic that a lot of kids nowadays who aren't familiar with the Silver Age should definitely read, or at least check out. They may like it, they might not. But it's good to remind people about where, our comics today came from.
Definitely.
It's good to have those throwbacks. It's good to remind ourselves, because it's a foundational sort of thing. It's very much like an earth sort of sediment, if you will. There's you take a cross-cut of the comics history, and it's important to see that sort of era, because each era builds upon the next, and that's how we get to where we are now.
Yeah.
And always remember your history, and always remember, what we liked about it and what maybe didn't work about it. And thankfully, you've included all the stuff that did work from the Silver Age into this work. And because of that, it works very, very well. And it's interesting that you say that this is just you that you've done this for. because I see you have collaborated with other people before.
Yeah.
And one of the interesting collaborations you've done is your work with film stuff and actual animation. Because you say you're an animator, you've worked on other stuff. I've had a look at a few of your videos. You've done like a music video called Far by Pony. You've done like short films.
Yeah.
And some of them are hand drawn.
Yep.
And some of them use stop motion animation.
Yeah.
So what got you into? I mean, so is anything particularly like about the two different animation styles, or?
I mean, I like I say, I did my degree in animation. I love animation. I mean, I have since I was a kid, like most people, but I just sort of never grew out of it. I love just visual storytelling, which is why obviously I do love comic books as well. But I sort of tried when I was at university. I tried to experiment with all different types of animation as I could. 2D was always going to be my because hand drawn stuff with like paper and then more digital. But stop motion, there's just something quite amazing about it. There's something quite I
think it's a very British thing. In other countries, stop motion, I mean, it's there, but it's not quite as prolific. It's getting a bit of an upsurge now with things like Leica, that studio who did like the Box Trolls, and Kubo and the Two Strings, which is one of my favourite animated movies of all time, to be honest. Looking forward to their Bigfoot movie that's coming out. But it's something that's been very prolific, especially for children's animation. It's something that's featured a lot over here.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a wonderful thing. I mean, I've kind of said to my students as well that I've never felt more like an animator than when I was on set making stop motion films, because there's just something about bringing this inanimate object to life and then like pressing play and seeing the footage that you've done and making this like I say, this object come to life. It's just wonderful. There are some pitfalls. You have to deal with gravity, which is sometimes not fun.
That bastard.
Well, yeah, it's kind of the only type of animation that you do have to worry about that with. But it's so much fun, and I find it's to do of it. And yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's absolutely great, and you come up with some fascinating stuff. That's very. I wasn't sure what to expect considering your other work, and I found it to be very, very absorbing in terms of. I mean, there's one movie, Petrified, which is I found to be very unsettling.
Yeah.
And then there's another movie that you did with stop motion called Up, Up and Away.
Yep.
Which is 10 years ago now you did that. And
that was a graduation film.
Yeah, and it really works. It really holds up. I find that as a kid who spent a lot of his time in his room reading his comics, I really fucking like that sort of story. One thing I found very, very, very interesting is you collaborated with Joseph Gordon-Levitt on a short film about your rights in America in terms of taking pictures.
Yeah. Yes, I did.
How the fuck did that come about?
He has an online production company called Hit Record, which is sort of like a community that anybody can join in with. And then lots of projects get created and calls go out to the community saying, right, we're making this project for whatever reason, who wants to get involved? And then people can get involved. And that came about because I was kind of part of the community already, sort of doing bits and pieces here and there. And they had a block reserved for Sundance 2012. And I got an email from one of the producers saying, we've got this music video, a music animation video that we want to do for one of the films to show at Sundance. Would you be interested in animating it? And I said, yes. And then they said, you've only well, yes, but then they said, well, you've only got 5 days to do it.
Oh.
And I said, okay. I said, okay. And they said, would you be interested in having a Skype chat? I said, yes. And next thing I know, I'm having a conversation with Jared, the producer, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who was directing it. And us three were just sitting there trying to hammer out the details of this film that we had less than 5 days at this point to make. And I didn't sleep for a week.
Well, despite the short turnaround and the lack of sleep, I think it turned out very, very well.
Thanks.
It's it's very funny, it's very whimsical, it's very informative, which I think is the main point.
Yeah.
And you can't really go wrong with like the ghost or spectre or the cosmic, I don't know, Benjamin Franklin
Yeah.
teaching a little girl about her rights, about photographing protests and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, it was very much around the Occupy movement that was going on at the time as well. So that was a huge part of it.
This was 2012. This was
Yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah, and we've had no protests since of any sort of kind. You know, we've been very quiet on the protest front. Not a lot of people going out there expressing their dissatisfaction with anything, really.
No, that certainly hasn't happened at all in great numbers of about apparently 2 million people.
We won't talk about it. We won't talk about it.
We won't talk about it now.
I mean, and it is very good animation. I mean, it's not as involved as some of your other animation or other stuff I've seen.
No,
but it's still good. It's still different quality and does the job it set out to do.
I
So
appreciate
think
it, yeah.
it's great.
I appreciate it, man. I mean, yeah, basically all the stuff that was in that film was created by the people in the community, and we were kind of put out this call saying, right, we have 5 days to make this film. Here are the characters, who can design what, and it was literally like we had to work with what was coming back at the time. So the characters are obviously quite disjointed in terms of styles, but I had a good little team of animators working with me across the world, I might add. That's the thing. Like everyone was like, I think I had one animator in Germany, another one in somewhere in America, and then there was me in Britain, sort of like coordinating it all. And it was like I say, for the time that we had and the materials that we had, I think I'm pretty proud of that one.
Yeah, I mean, I know people who couldn't make that sort of level of quality and that sort of thing in like 5 months, let alone 5 days. So credit to you, sir. Very well done.
Thank you.
So you did a Kickstarter for Captain Cosmic issue 1.
Yep.
Are you doing a Kickstarter for issue 3 or any of the future issues?
I will. When? I'm still writing the script right now. I will be doing one. I'm writing the script right now. I'm hoping, depending on what happens, that maybe we can launch sometime in May. Because I really, when I do Kickstarters, I usually like to have the book very much done before I even do a Kickstarter, so that as soon as it's finished, I can send the book to print, and then there's no delay. Do you know what I mean? Like that's kind of how I've operated with people, and they're doing their Kickstarters in the past, and it worked really, really well. So I just need to write it and draw it, and then do the Kickstarter.
I think that should be the process: write it, draw it, then get the money for it.
Yes, yeah,
absolutely. And so those Kickstarters, they work out all right. They go pretty well.
Sorry, say again.
And so those Kickstarters, how well did they go?
Yeah, they did. I had a tremendous support on it from people. I mean, I always kind of have a low target anyway, because I have a very clear view of like, this is the amount of books I want to print. And I think, I've had an incredible response from people, which is on both of them.
Well, it's clear to see why. These are very well made, but I mean, this is something I like about Captain Cosmic. It feels very. I mean, you can kind of tell because of the quality of the design and the quality of the art and stuff like that. But even though I did read just a digital copy, but it does feel like I'm just reading a comic from the Silver Age. It feels like it's a time traveling comic book. It feels so authentic. I think people are going to respond to that very positively.
Well, I hope so, and people seem to have responded quite nicely to it. So that's great. But yeah.
Oh yeah, you're getting acclaim, sir. Yes, I damn well these people have responded positively, and so I'm really looking forward. I really want to read issue 2 now, especially if it's in 3D. Oh, I'm going to get me some of that 3D goodness.
The issue isn't in 3D. There was a 3D print I did with it.
Oh right, I see. Okay. All right then. Okay, fine. Take my dreams away and crush them. Why don't you? Why don't you?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know. I'm terrible.
Do you know there's so few media out there that is out there for me with my 3D glasses? Everything I read I know. I am oppressed. I am.
I'll send you the 3D print. You can have a look at it.
So that's the future of Captain Cosmic.
Mm.
What other stuff have you got in the works that you can tell us about?
Ooh, I've got a couple of things actually. I can't talk too much about it, but I've just recently done my first work with Rebellion, which
Ooh.
yeah, which has been great. I've got some work coming out in the two specials. They've got a number of specials coming out over the course of the next few months, and I've worked on a couple of them. There's the Core Buster special that's coming out, I believe, next month, that I've got a story in, and the recently announced Tammy and Jinty special coming out in the summer. Which, yeah, I'm really excited for those.
Well, yeah, that is exciting. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh, you're making it. Welcome to the big leagues, kid.
No, well, like I say, they're short stories. I wrote one for the Tammy and Jinty. I wrote and drew that one, but the one in the Core and Buster one, I worked with a writer on that one, but really incredible experience, really great working with those with those guys, the different editors and stuff. Yeah, I'm really excited for them to come out.
As well, you should be. The future looks pretty bright for you. And so the Capers know. We always ask this. You going to any cons in the future?
I'm not actually. No, I know. I'm taking a bit of a back seat this year for a variety of reasons. I was meant to go to a con at the end of this month, but they've had to post, and that was the only one I had on my calendar so far. But I'm not going to be at MCM either, so no, not for the foreseeable future, I'm afraid.
Oh dear, the Capers are going to be crushed.
I'm
I'm sure at one point in the future you'll be able to make it to a con and Capers will be able to see you and that stuff. But just in case I don't, I'll be providing a link in the show notes to your website, www.awclift.co.uk, where they can check out all your stuff. And there's a shop there where they can buy your shit.
Yeah, there is definitely. Yep.
There's plenty of opportunity, Capers, for you to check out some of Andy's awesome stuff. And so, let's see what we got here. You got Adventures of Captain Cosmic, issue 1 and 2, print edition. You got Prince, Captain Cosmic flying through space. Oh, I really like the look of that print, actually. That looks really cool. I'm checking that out now. Hang on. Let's see. Oh, that looks really cool. You know what about? It's got that classic Silver Age background swoosh, like that beam that shows people are flying.
Yeah,
I really like. Is there a word for that? Is it like the Kirby crackle?
I don't think so. I think it's just a swishy. Let's go with swishy thing. I like that.
Swishy thing. It's a swishy thing.
It's a swishy thing. Let's go with it.
Copyright Scott James Merridew, 2019. And that looked really cool. Oh dear.
Thank you.
It's only £5.
Yeah.
I kind of want to get it. I think I'm going to get it. No, wait till my next paycheck, then I might just get it. Because that looks really cool. There's space on my walls yet. I could take down one of my posters. I've got so many posters. It's like I'm still in university. I don't even care. I'm not going to put them in frames. I put them on blue tack and I stick them against the wall because I am authentic.
Why not? You be you, man.
I will be me. I don't have a choice. If I had a choice to be someone else, I fucking would be. But I'm me, so therefore that is what I shall be. So, on that note, Capers, I think we're going to end the show. Thank you very much for joining me today. It's been lovely having you on the show.
Oh, no, thank you for having me. It's been great. Thank you.
No, it's been weird is what it's been. It's been weird.
Who doesn't like weird? It's fine. It's great. I've had fun.
Why change now?
Exactly.
And if you enjoy the show, Capers, please tell your friends. Shout it on the rooftops! And if you haven't already, go back and listen to some of our other super episodes, like when we talked about Half-Life Incorporated or Bubbles 07. They're still great. You should check them out. And you can listen to the show on iTunes, Podbean, YouTube, Spotify, or at podcapers.com. We have a Patreon. Check out the rewards. Patreon.com/AP2HYC. Or if you want to... If you want to get in touch with us, suggest show topics, or maybe comment on the show yourself, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at AP2HYC, or email us at podcapers@ap2hyc.com. Thank you very much to Dan Harris for our logo, the lovely microphone with the red and blue 3D glasses. Those are mine, and nobody else's! This has been Podcapers, the official podcast of A Place to Hang Your Cape. Cue the music!